Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Nerd Pod Generations, episode 145. As always, I am one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Judson. Hello, sir.
Hello, friends and enemies.
It's good to be back, man.
You're back. You're here.
Yes.
Right at the height of the summer.
So it was weird, because this is... Luckily, last week, thankfully, you and Kelly were able to put a show out, so we didn't have... Because we had a missed week, then we had a week together... And then we were going to have another missed week, and luckily we had some content to fill, which was wonderful, and I'm very grateful you both did that.
I'm super happy that Kelly was on the show.
Yes.
We had a great show.
We're always happy when she's on the show, but she adds that extra level of class to the show that you and I kind of missed a little bit.
100%. I run right past it on a regular basis. We're gonna.
And I think we avoid it, to be honest.
At times, I have a whole story to go with watching The Acolyte this week that I think is
I can't
pretty,
wait.
yeah. But no, it was great having Kelly on the show. One of my favorite segments of the year so far has been just going down the list of movies that we watched that she hasn't reviewed on the show, and just having her do like a 2-minute, like, what did you think of Godzilla -1? What did you think of Wish? What did you think of this? And that was one of my favorite segments we've done this year.
That was a good segment. Yeah, that was a good segment. But I'm very grateful for that. So, folks, once again, Nerd Pod Generations, episode 145. That means there are 144 past episodes of pure gold, and there's going to be more to come, including we have just pretty much solidified our next watch and review, which will be Wolverine and Deadpool, which will be Saturday the 27th, I believe.
Yes, is when we're going to record it.
So hopefully that's something to look forward to. But if you're interested in things like that, we have done watch and reviews for a lot of movies in the past. We have plenty of reviews for movies that have come out on like Netflix and whatnot, including Godzilla -1, which we were just mentioning. That we reviewed like 5 episodes ago. 4
yeah, not that long ago. A few weeks ago.
I hark back to missing those days that we can review something good.
Yeah.
But hopefully Wolverine and Deadpool will be good.
Wade and Wolvie. We'll see how it goes.
God, my fingers are crossed.
I'm so scared.
I'm a little nervous, I'm not going to lie.
A little nervous.
So, folks, please go to NerdPodGen. Once again, NerdPodGen.com, and that is our website where you have links to pretty much all of our personal stuff that we do, and links to Spotify, links to our YouTube channel. If you do listen to our show and you do watch us on YouTube, make sure you are subscribing, please, to the podcast and to the channel, and then leave likes and reviews. Don't even have to like it. Just leave a review. Let us know what you think. Let us know of topics that you might want us to cover.
We're one of the few shows that will still read the comments.
Yes, because
we haven't learned better yet.
No.
We don't have that
scar. Not even a little bit.
We haven't been whipped to succession on that.
Only we have been overly critical of ourselves.
Yes.
Not quite as many people on the outside world.
Yes, indeed so.
Be critical. Since you're going to have Kelly join you on yours, I figure I'll start with mine, kind of go through my stuff, and then we can roll into yours.
Absolutely.
I got a couple quick hits I want to touch on. This one I want to be a quick hit.
Good luck.
My son and I continued our MCU journey.
Cross your fingers.
We did watch the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, which I still really enjoyed, but you can tell how that show was made for adults, which kind of screws up the whole MCU as kind of a kid thing.
Well, and it's so niche. They went too hard.
It's very niche.
Like, listen, I love the filmmaking of those 2 episodes. I will just say, I think there's a difference between doing a Psycho-style recreation of I Love Lucy and Dick Van Dyke Show, and something that needed to be more tapered, needed to be more in line with trying to keep people invested.
I agree.
Because it got so far afield. I love doing it. I love the way that they did it. I think that they just needed to have a different element involved in the show.
And what sucks about it is, and this is what I was telling my son, we have to watch it. Like, you cannot watch Doctor Strange in the Mouth of Madness unless you have seen that show.
Yeah.
Like, we have to see that show. And so we're trying to get through it, and then from there we did watch the next one in the official timeline, which is Spider-Man Far From Home. I gotta say, I still love Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
I wish they would have not made him into a goofy character like they did in the second half. Like in the first half, if he just ended up like moving that into being just a straight up villain instead of this, I'm a begrudged scientist and Tony Stark and blah, 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 blah. And it kind of took away from the character for me. I hated that movie more than I did the first time I saw it. The first few times I've seen it. Like, I really did not enjoy myself watching this movie. And the cherry on top was the J. Jonah Jameson at the end, knowing...
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons. I always forget his name for some reason. Sorry, J.K.
Wanted
Simmons.
hair.
I do love you. He wanted the hair. And it's like, how? Like, seeing him bald, and he has the voice, and he has the persona, and everything's perfect, and just seeing him bald, I was like, God damn it, that was the worst missed opportunity.
This is the dirty little secret, is that John Watts, the director, is a fucking idiot.
He is an absolute moron.
I have been saying this for almost a decade now. Yeah. Dude's a fucking idiot. And anytime I see him signed on for something, I'm like, oh, pray to the nerd gods that he doesn't ruin this too. Because that's what he does.
Yeah.
He runs we were talking about running past the point. He runs 100 yards past the point, and he doesn't hear any of the people shouting, being like, no, John, you need to turn this way. He's just gone.
Yeah.
He's just gone, and he doesn't even stop and think, hey, it doesn't make sense for Spider-Man to drive a car. Hey, does it make sense for Spider-Man to have these glasses that he just hands over to the first person ever? Hey, if you're going in for a stealth mission, maybe wear gloves that have fingers on them.
Yeah.
So that people can't, I don't know, track who you are because you left oily fingerprints everywhere while wearing gloves. How did you do that?
So dumb. And that actually, there are 3 words in the English language that will incite rage in me. The Night Monkey.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just listening to that name being said, and I'm like, the costume was kind of cool. Other than the glove thing, as like a piecemeal, you don't want to do like the Venom symbiote, and I thought it wasn't bad,
but it was just
stupid.
My problem is that this is a tactical suit provided by S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah,
this fucking sucks.
Yeah,
this is not a tactical suit provided by S.H.I.E.L.D. You got to be shitting me if this is the best that S.H.I.E.L.D. can muster up. I don't care that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been gone for 5 years in canon. Maybe. We're guessing. Who the fuck knows? This is post-blip. Thank you also to this movie for ruining it. It was the snap for a solid year and a half, and then all of a sudden it's the blip.
Yeah.
It was not the snap. It was never the snap. It was always the blip.
Yes.
And it's like, God, fuck you guys. Just fuck you guys for just screwing this whole goddamn thing up.
It was so bad, and I hated it.
I agree with you. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. There are elements of the monsters that I like, but the fact that you name them Molten Man and Hydro Man, I'm like, well, then that fucking sucks.
Yep.
And then they try and pitch us this thing of MJ, I can't call her Mary Jane because she's not, MJ saying that Hydro Man somehow reminded her of her ex-boyfriend. And I'm just like, what the fuck? This is a Maury Bench call out, and I can appreciate what you're doing, but it makes no sense in this context. No. And there were just so many stupid missed opportunities. That is still the only time that I actually start liking Tom Holland is when he gets his ass kicked and then has to build his own suit. And I'm like, finally, this fucking idiot child is taking some level of, you'll call me crazy, responsibility. Oh my God. We had 2.5 movies with no responsible Spider-Man. Why did we do this?
And I agree with you. But then they had to ruin that scene with him and Happy in the jet.
I mean, that was already ruined. And then he's like, what song is this? I love Black Sabbath.
No, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
When it was AC/DC.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Stop with that joke is the dumbest thing.
It's so fucking dumb.
And I don't ever see it going away. No matter how old he gets, they're going to say stupid shit.
They tapered it down some in Far From Home, or No Way Home.
No Way Home.
But, it was his whole character for how many movies was just, reference, but it's not a really good reference, and also it makes me look like a baby. The way that I'm going to make this reference makes me look like a baby.
And an idiot.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. I think you know who the fuck AC/DC is.
I just want, as a hypothetical, if you had a black cat who is like 25... imagine her in any way being attracted to this Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Pitch that to me. That black cat, an adult woman of any kind, is attracted to this guy, and she doesn't think he's a child.
Yeah.
I want to emphasize, she doesn't think he's a child? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because he's short, his voice hasn't dropped, and every time he makes a reference past 1998, he says a long time ago.
Yeah. No, it's dumb. It was dumb. So moving on from that, I'm going to briefly touch on Doctor Who. So my wife and I finally finished the 2-part finale.
Yes.
I can honestly and happily say I don't think I've ever seen a television show go from so bad to so good in such a short period of time. Because it's only, I believe it's 8 episodes.
Yeah.
7 or 8, something like that. And the first 3 were so fucking bad that I was like, God, this is the end of Doctor Who. But then It got so good. The last 2 episodes, it's this 2-part finale having to deal with this character. It's a villain from an Tom Baker Doctor Who, and it's they play it off almost like it's a Egyptian god.
Okay.
And it wrapped itself around the TARDIS. And the cool thing about it is, from that episode with Tom Baker, he originally exiled this demon into, or this entity into the time vortex.
Okay.
But what happened is when the TARDIS was leaving the vortex, it wrapped itself around the TARDIS and used the filter that the TARDIS has to make itself invisible. And it traveled everywhere the Doctor went.
Oh, one of those.
To every planet. And what it did is almost like a Thanos type event. Every planet the Doctor landed on, this entity created this one being. And it's the same. It was an older woman in the show. But it created the same being on every planet as a different part of that planet's ecosystem, or, you know, the population, that's the alien race or whatever. And then at one point it decides, all right, now we're going to do our snap event, and it creates this like sand cloud that just kills everybody.
Wow.
It's like it referred to itself as like a demon of death, or an angel of death.
Right.
And it was just really cool. And you know, it was a very Doctor Who-y.
Sounds like a Doctor Who plot. Yeah.
And you know, once again, the whole thing, for anyone who's watching Doctor Who, is a fan of Doctor Who, this Doctor is so incredibly different, and you just have to get used to the intricacies of this Doctor. And once you do, you'll love him, because he really is. He's a fantastic actor, and he does a great job. He just is different. He's not the same as the other Doctors. The only complaint I would have on these final 2 episodes is they bring back the Rose character from the first ever, or the whole David Tennant run.
Really? Did they bring back Billie Piper?
No. Rose, no, not that character. The trans character.
Oh, that Rose.
That Rose.
That Rose.
They brought her back, and she works at UNIT now, which was cool.
Of course, yeah.
But it's like, you already showed that she is like partnering kind of with David Tennant's Doctor, who still exists.
Yeah.
So now you're having this end of the world situation, and you have her in UNIT, and there's no mention or sign of David Tennant.
Yeah, where's he?
And it's like, you would assume she would have a way, seeing as she was very close to David Tennant at the end of that 3-run episode, that she would have a way to contact him. She would have a way to say, hey, listen, literally every life form in the universe is getting wiped out. What you doing? You want to come help? And maybe the 2 Doctors team up to end this? And it's like, the fact that there was no mention of him, that's the only thing that bothered me. I'm like, you dug yourself into a hole, and at the end of that first 3-run episode, that now to not have him, and to not have Donna mentioned, it kind of threw off that whole finale for me a little bit. It was still a really fun episode.
I mean, that was an inevitable, because they left David Tennant alive. So by leaving him alive, you're inevitably going to have this situation. Yes. And because they did this before, they had David Tennant survive, but he was in another universe, and he was no longer the Doctor. He no longer had the Time Lord powers. He was just a human version of himself. So you didn't do that. He's still a Time Lord. He's still the Doctor. And the more I think about it, the more I wonder if there aren't several races that would be deeply concerned that there are now 2 Doctors running around. Yeah. And so I get it. You're retired. I also understand, circumstantially, I think you would want to come out of retirement to help pinch hit in this situation.
And the thing that, like, one of the arguments I've heard is, well, you know, maybe he was at a different time or whatnot. This event happens throughout time, because the Doctor had landed on a bunch of these planets at different times, and that's when this being was created to walk amongst the people and then eventually bring about the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not even like he could be at a different time and not know this is occurring. This is occurring throughout time.
Exactly.
At every point in the universe that the Doctor's ever visited.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so he's gonna be aware.
Like, I am happy, even though this first season you don't really see, or there's not even really a mention of any classic Doctor Who villains, there is a mention of the Daleks.
Okay.
So that made me happy. Just hearing that, I mean, it was a 1 second thing.
Yeah.
But hearing that word, I was like, okay.
I still get it because I remember very distinctly that was one of my issues with Capaldi was just like they kept running through the same villains over and over again. So I get it that they're trying to build a little bit of distance, but you gotta make sure that the Daleks are still somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like they've created so many villains over the 60 years the show's been on. I know. I mean, they did. They brought one back with this, which was great. But like the toy maker, and then this being, they're so obscure because they were in like 1 or 2 episodes. So it's not even like they're like the Master, who wasn't in a ton of episodes, but he was in almost every iteration of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. I mean, it's cool, but it's like, I guess you're at least tapping into the history of the Doctor.
Bring back satanic oods.
Yeah,
bring them back.
Do the oods. I love the fucking oods. All right, so moving on. So the Doctor, I give the series a solid, I'm gonna say B+, because I can't look past those first 3 episodes. But this show ended so strong, and I'm very excited for the future. Even though they did play off like Ruby Sunday, who is the current companion, is either not going to be back next season or is going to be back in a limited role, which kind of sucks because I really like her and she did such a great job. And I loved, they are 2 extremely beautiful people and there was 0 sexual tension. And I love that. I'm like, good. Have a show where you have beautiful people and there's not even a hint of sex. It's like, that is the greatest because you can just focus on them, like truly appreciating their friendship.
Yeah.
And that felt so good. Like when they hugged each other, you're like, oh, they literally just love each other as people.
Yeah.
And not in a physical way.
I mean, this is something that we've been talking about, not us, but just as a culture.
Yes.
Is the unnecessary romance that is 1940 style just shoved in.
Yep.
And it doesn't make any sense and it's weird. And if you look at it on an actual timeline basis, you're like, this is an extremely fast romance.
Yeah. And it was not.
And you don't have,
not good.
Not every movie is Speed where they joke about how they're going to break up in 5 months anyway. So
that is true. That is true. So I'm going to briefly touch on The Boys. I've watched up to the latest episode of The Boys.
Which is quite controversial. It's controversial enough that I've heard rumors and rumblings.
Well, here's the thing. The shine is off on what makes the show, which is ultraviolence, nudity, just completely shocking scenes. I don't like it because that's gotten boring. Now, listen, I will do anything in my power to make fun of the ultra-right conservatives in the real world.
Yes. Why wouldn't you?
Totally love making fun of them.
Yeah.
This show has, and they've kind of touched on it throughout the seasons, and they make Homelander almost like the end of the last season, they make him like he literally is Trump.
Yeah.
Where he says, I can kill somebody on Fifth Avenue. At the end of this last season, he literally blows a dude's head off in front of hundreds and thousands of people, and because he was protesting against Homelander, and he was just an innocent civilian, but everyone cheered because he killed a liberal. And it's like, okay, now, but this season, they are way going overboard. It is so obvious what they're doing. Like, it's, I appreciate making fun of things like this and movements like this, but you don't need to go so in, like, just, I want to say, I'm not even going to say slap in the face. This is a Hulk punch in the face.
Yeah.
Of, okay, we have this new character, Firecracker, who is Tucker Carlson, but a female superhero. They have the Vought Network, which is absolutely Fox. And there's a guy that absolutely was Sean Hannity. You have, deep into everything. I mean, she starts off one of her shows talking about Jewish space lasers. And it's like, okay, so you literally mixed Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, and that's his character.
Yeah.
You have gone way in on Homelander being Trump. You have, like, everything is, like, good. And now, mind you, I am 100% on board with the message.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so, like, it's too much. It's too much.
It's overboard.
Like, everything about the Vought Network and the Seven, which is the ultra-conservative, everything is, like, super religion now, too. It's, like, God and religion and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, God damn, dude. Like, have a little, have a little vague sense of it. Like, you kind of did in the first, but it's, like, now it's so in your face that it's, like, It is everything that the conservatives complain that isn't happening as far as an anti-propaganda against them. This is what they're saying shit is what this show is doing. And it's like, dude, have a little, like, I mean, once again, I love the message. I just think they're going too much billboard flashing.
Yeah.
This is the message.
Well, from what I understand, it's that everybody knew that Homelander was Orange Bastard this whole time. But now they're like, oh, okay, now everybody knows. We're not going to have there be that, like, thin veneer of metaphor. This is just a straight one-to-one now, where, like, he goes on trial or something in this season, or...
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
And, like, it's got... There's only one episode that I truly liked, and it's Jack Quaid his dad is Simon Pegg.
Yeah, I've heard about this, yeah.
And his mom is estranged because she left them when he was young. And his dad has a stroke, and he made his ex-wife, who he hated, the power of attorney, because he knew that his son would not be able to make the tough decision of just letting him die. So he gave it to the mother because he's like, she's estranged from us. She has no real connection to me. So I feel that she would follow through with my wishes. Well, Jack ends up getting this compound that's been the thing throughout the whole show, Compound V, which was injected into children, which gave them superpowers and created these superheroes.
Yeah.
But this compound is like a steroid for superheroes, but it can also give normal people like limited superpowers.
Yeah, they've done this in Marvel and DC a million.
Yeah, it's kind of like
times.
it's super serum, pretty much.
Yeah, well, it's super serum. It's there have been superhero doping scandals in Marvel and DC that basically there's so many drugs that like turn you into a metahuman for a certain amount of time. I mean, like, this is old hat.
It's very old hat. But anyways, it gets injected into Simon Pegg, who's literally dying, and they have to unplug him, and he's like starving to death because he's in a coma. Comes back to like 100% healthy, comes back to life, and the episode is like Jack Quaid trying to deal with his mother and interacting with her now that he's an adult, and she left him when he was like 6. And so he's like mad at her. He's mad that his dad gave her power of attorney, and Simon Pegg's trying to explain to him why he did it. And then throughout the episode, you could tell something's not right with Simon Pegg. And his memory starts to go because his brain was destroyed in the stroke. And this Compound V kind of brought him back enough that he could, like, he was normal for a little bit, and then he starts to go, but then he also starts to, so he's having like a dementia moment, but then these limited superpowers start to appear, which is him being able to move through walls. And he's like running through the hospital confused, and then he'll reform, like there's a guy having a conversation with a nurse, and he reforms right in the middle of the guy, so the guy like explodes because he's like forming solid in the middle of this. So that's gross, but it's like watching that, him, like Simon Pegg was great in that episode, like going through this confusion of, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am. And then it ends up ending where Jack Quaid finally has to kill his father and let him go because he's sad and confused. He doesn't know what's going on, and he's killing people without knowing it. And it was a really strong episode, but other than that, everything else has been dog shit.
Yeah, no. I everything I've heard this season is that hardcore fans are upset, and middling fans are kind of like, I don't get it. I don't get what the point of the show is anymore. So I'm not sad that I've always skipped The Boys. It's too morbid for me, and it doesn't actually present anything interesting. You know, like I said, mutant growth hormone has been a thing in Marvel for a while, you know, so like I don't know what you think you're achieving by having evil Superman who's Trump. I don't know what you think you're achieving by having the Flash, this version of the Flash, or the Deep, or, you know, like, all of it is just so tawdry to me. It's so surface level that it's not a metaphor for anything. And if it is, it's like, oh, what if Batman was bad? What if Batman was a sex-crazed maniac? And it's like...
The funny thing about that, and we've talked about this in the past, what we'd like to have seen in the Flashpoint with the different Thomas Wayne, Jeffrey D. Morgan has a character in this season. And he's awesome. He's, like, I would say, other than Simon Pegg, he's the only awesome, but he is literally playing... I don't know if you ever saw the movie Rampage with The Rock.
I did not.
He plays, like, this CIA agent.
Yeah, he's the government stooge.
It literally is the same character,
yeah,
but he swears more.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. And it's a nice little twist with this character, you find out, too. But he's real. Like, I love him as an actor, and I wish he would be in more things.
Well, it's still the funniest thing in the whole damn world to me that DC had Zack Snyder set up this whole thing, and then they did 8 years of rewrites on Flashpoint. And when they got to the end of all those rewrites, they were like, you know what would be better than Thomas Wayne, which makes a lot of sense, especially since Jeffrey Dean Morgan was in the universe already as Thomas Wayne? Batman from the Burton era. Makes no fucking sense, but hey, it'll get everybody in the crowd to come and cheer and be excited, except, oh wait, this wasn't the premiere of that. Batgirl was the premiere of that, and they got rid of that.
Yep.
So I just have to ask, what's the fucking point of any of this?
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. So I'm going to finish my long spiel. I had warned you. I had a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you got like 3 weeks of backed up.
I watched Axel F, which is the fourth Beverly Hills Cop movie that's now on Netflix. A little backstory. My 9th birthday, so this is 39 years ago, my grandpa took me to see Beverly Hills Cop on my 9th birthday. Loved the franchise. First and second one. Third one, they tried to go a little more PG. I think it was PG-13, which that's an R-rated franchise, and luckily this one's R-rated. So I'm not a big fan of these. To me, they've only done it right really once with Blade Runner 2049, of having these franchises that are way, like, it's been, I think, it was 94. So, yeah, it's been 30 years since the last Beverly Hills Cop. Some of these ones, that, like, they just don't come out good. When they, like, another example of an Eddie Murphy one is Coming to America. That redo after 30 years, that thing was terrible. I couldn't even make it through that. This was enjoyable, though.
I'm glad to hear.
It wasn't perfect. It was funny. It had some great moments. For some reasons, people had an issue with, they brought back the songs from each movie and they put them throughout this movie, which to me I loved because it's great music.
You have to have that.
And, you had Pointer Sisters singing, doing the Neutron dance and all that. He had all these great songs. It brought back a lot of old characters, which all worked great. The only one that was a little grinding was Bronson Pinchot as Serge. He was okay, but even that character from the first one, it's like, okay, he was funny in the first one. Second one, he started to grate on you. Third one, where he was an arms dealer, was like, all right. And now he's a real estate agent in Beverly Hills. You're like, okay, it was cool to see him, but it's like, all right. The only negative I would have about this is the main basis of this movie is Axel Foley's in Detroit. Billy, who is Judge Reinhold's character, is a private detective because he left the police department because he knew there were corrupt cops. And of course, the leader corrupt cop has to be Kevin Bacon because he's one of the bigs in it. And he's trying to get proof of this whole big conspiracy thing. And there was this cop that was killed by Kevin Bacon's crew, but then they were trying to pin it on this poor kid. and because the kid's uncle is a drug dealer, but the kid isn't. And so he's trying to prove his innocence. And, of course, the lawyer who's working with him is Axel Foley's estranged daughter.
Oh, okay.
So she gets in danger. Billy calls Axel. He flies to Beverly Hills, and then everything starts. So it's a lot of the same beats.
John McClane's his way through L.A.
Exactly. And it's it's a lot of the same beats from the older movies. But once again, it was great. I thought it was, it was funny in a lot of moments. The whole interaction between Axel Foley and his daughter, they really overdid it. It's like it slowed down a lot of scenes too much. Like it kind of reminded me of one of the criticisms you and I have when people in the middle of a conflict will all of a sudden start discussing the relationship.
Yeah.
Kind of had it with this, where it's like, all right, we're undercover and we're walking around this thing trying to find clues. We're going to talk about our estranged relationship as father and daughter. And it's like,
now? Right now?
They just did it way too much.
Yeah.
And it's like the scenes that don't have that, where it's, either interactions between Axel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who, of course, is the former boyfriend of his daughter, and he's a cop, and so it brings all that in, and it kind of cites some cliches. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt was really good in it, and his interactions with Eddie Murphy were great, and, just bringing back some of the old beats were kind of fun. Kevin Bacon hams it up, but he was good. Kevin Bacon is a bad guy.
Yeah.
In a direct-to-Netflix movie. So
you
you're
can
not
do worse
expecting,
than that.
Yeah. It's not as bad as R.I.P.D. That was the worst Kevin Bacon. But I got to say, I mean, it's not a great movie. I would give it probably a solid B. It's fun. It's something that I would say, it's on Netflix, it's free. If you want to watch something fun, doesn't have any, nudity. It has a decent amount of violence at the end, which was very reminiscent to the first movie. Because if you remember the first movie, it doesn't have a ton of violence, but that end shootout at the mansion, which this is an end shootout at a mansion, you're like, oh, okay, that's a lot of the beats, but it was pretty bloody. And this has got some good, headshots and, good blood splatter and all that. It is a very fun, and then the final scene is an awesome callback to the very first movie, and it is a whole lot of fun. So I really know it sounds like I love this movie more than I did, but I give it a solid B.
Yeah. How many bananas made it into tailpipes?
No bananas, but that's the scene I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where you have Taggart, who is I can't remember the actor's name, but he is the original. He's old as hell. He's the police commissioner now. But it's him and Billy sitting in the car, and then Axel gets in the back and as a surprise thing. And that was fun. I was like, okay, and Eddie Murphy, you can tell physically he's as old as he is, but goddamn, he still looks like he's in his 40s.
Nice.
It's unbelievable. It truly is unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't have anything for or against Eddie Murphy. I find him a fascinating character more than anything else. But you throw out that many bad movies, it's like Adam Sandler. After a while, you just start feeling bad for them. You're like, okay, guys, I know that it's tough out there, and you got to write something that's not terrible, but come on. I know you got it in you. Come on.
Well, he is definitely a victim of somebody who got way too big, way too fast.
Yeah.
Because he did, I want to say, was it Raw? Not Raw. Delirious, I think, was his first stand-up, the recorded one where he's in the purple, leather suit. Mm-hmm. I want to say he was only 17 or 18 when he made that.
Yeah.
So he was a monumental star before he was 20.
Well, and you think of how fast his star took off. Ernie Hudson's character was supposed to be Eddie Murphy, but he got too big before they could make Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's right.
So it's like that's how fast they were writing a character for him, and by the time they were ready to shoot the thing, he was already too big and too busy to be this fourth wheel on the car, and so they just went on without him.
Well, think about this. When I just had to double check my math, when they started shooting the very first Beverly Hills Cop, he was 22 years old. Mm-hmm. Think about that shit.
Yeah.
As a 22-year-old having this massive film, and he had already made 48 Hours before that, and it's like, God, I can't imagine being that young and being the biggest star in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time he was 25, he was the biggest star in the world.
Oh, yeah. No, he's legendary. Yeah.
But that's all I got to say.